Thanks everyone for joining us for our presentation today. I'm here with Andrew to talk to you about getting the data you need, when and where you need it.
Hi, I'm Andrew White. I'm the Director of Library Information Services at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. That's located in Troy, New York, just outside of the capital, Albany of New York.
Thanks, Andrew. And my name is Gloria Gonzalez. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Linked Data Innovation and Design at EBSCO. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and I work with libraries to create connected data sets to publish on the web. So to jump in here, we're going to give you a quick overview of what we'll dive into today. We're going to give you an introduction to a service that I work on at EBSCO called Bibliograph. That's actually how Andrew and I met many years ago when his library was one of the first to adopt BibFrame, a standard created by the Library of Congress. We'll talk about how libraries are moving their catalogs from MARC to this new standard BibFrame. We'll cover the basic features of Bibliograph and what you can expect today. And we'll give you a preview of what we're building next based on feedback from libraries like Rensselaer University. You'll also see a few exciting live demos from Andrew. He's going to show you how he took his data and uploaded it to an application called GraphDB to get a dynamic visualization. He'll also show you how students can interact with the data through an application and an environment on campus called Campfire. After that, we'll jump into some examples of how this data is used by people searching on the web, how libraries can embed this on any website, and how you can make connections to other data sets through processes like enrichment. So ultimately, with this service, what we're looking at is a problem where users aren't starting their search at the library. You know, this conversation has come up many times over the past few decades, but it's more increasing now than ever because in addition to services like Google, there are new generative AI services. So there's new competition against libraries as to where students are going to go find the answers for what they need. And that's students at all levels. And so what this means is that libraries aren't able to engage with with people everywhere on the web. So people are searching these places and they may not know that the library exists. In addition to that, they may not understand that the library has a lot more than just books. And so the library describes a lot of different places and topics as well. And then within different regions and groups of libraries, it's hard to understand what certain libraries have in common and what's unique to their collection, and where they need to grow their collection over time. So with linked data at EBSCO, we are facing this problem with a few different ways, and all of this repurposes code from Bibliograph. So Bibliograph is a standalone service, and we publish library data for each individual library and connect it across the Library Link network. That data can serve many different purposes. We publish it on the open web, and it also links back to services like EBSCO Discovery Service. It also works with any other discovery layer. So here's just a sneak peek into some of the roadmap of what we're working on now. But we're actively working with the Library of Congress to see how they want to use linked data to improve their discovery, their catalog locate. And so they're going to give us feedback on what's most important and what kind of insights they want to give their users that are searching that catalog and where they want to bring people into that catalog from. In addition to that, we're starting to use linked data to provide features like citation trails, which allows people to use the connections from article to article to understand not only who has cited who, but the importance of certain articles based on the number of times it's been cited. So with Bibliograph, you're creating structured data, and that means that it's open and it can be picked up by crawlers. It can also be accessed by anyone on the web. So unlike catalogs, it gets indexed over time, and it can show up in organic search, and it can also become available to direct integrations with services like Google. And so with this, your catalog becomes more findable, and ultimately the usage of your collections can increase over time. So the way that Bibliograph works is it takes MARC records from the customer and it transforms it to BibFrame. So for every person, place, thing, a link is created and connected to everything else in the catalog. All of this is published. You can think of this as a specialized website of data, and it's designed for humans, but also for applications to consume. So like crawlers to come through on the web. And then ultimately, we're doing this consistently for each library, and we're able to make connections across the graphs so they can see what they share, and make their data better over time. Now that libraries have these graphs of data published on the web, they're able to share collections and embed them on any website. And once that collection's embedded, it doesn't have to be updated. So we call this a living list. And what that means is that you grab some code, you paste it into your website about a specific topic, and as the library's collection changes, the website will be automatically updated. We're able to make connections to other sources like Wikidata and pull in additional information so that libraries can generate new features like knowledge panels, which we'll show you more of later. I mentioned all of this does drive catalog usage, but you can search that either through your own local tools that you want to use or through our stats dashboard as well. Once libraries publish data, over time, we have a direct integration with Google in your country, which is the United States, Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom. Then you'll show up within a number of weeks after Google's been able to make the connection between what they understand already about your library and the new data that you're publishing on the web. And then, of course, as you publish your data, you create a connected data set that helps you join membership in a network of other data. So we won't get too technical here, but I will show you one specific example of how we create a link in a graph for a person. So on the left here, you can see a snippet of MARC data for Albert Einstein. So he's the creator of this book, and we've created this URI for TU Dortmund. And so you'll see the beginning, the base URL that identifies the university. This is something that the library can control themselves, or they can choose to use a library link domain. And then every URI gets a unique identifier. So in blue there, you see a hash that's created based on specific input. And so we create these hashes for every library. So every time we see this version about Albert Einstein, the same type of hash is created. So that was just one link in an interconnected web that grows over time as Rensselaer University refreshes their graph. So currently, as of this presentation, there's almost 20 million resources in their graph. So what that means is 19.8 million people, places, things, topics, instances, works, annotations. So many different diverse types of resources, but all interconnected with the same relationships and creating an open data set that anybody can use and connect to. Here's another breakdown just to zoom in on some of those counts. And what this shows is the unique breakdown of data or links that were created from RPI's data. Every library is unique, so their number of families, for example, may be very different depending on what they describe. The move to publish open data and host open data for libraries is part of a larger strategy at EBSCO, where we support access in many different ways. So not just open access to open access ebooks, open access articles, but also open infrastructure. So using common standards, supporting and developing common standards, and using applications that we know aren't just going to work within our own ecosystems, but across all libraries, and also through open source. So a lot of the technology that we've been talking about so far is powered by Bibliograph, and we're making that open source as part of our work with the Library of Congress and Folio. So over time, we're pushing to make not just the data open, but the full stack from beginning to end, so that as many libraries can participate in this growing ecosystem of connected data. Because when RPI publishes data, they're doing this, from I mentioned they started this early on when the Library of Congress first started to publish BibFrame. Well, now it's been almost, 7, 8 years now, and the web has learning about libraries in a whole new way. So I'm excited to pass it over to Andrew to show how these connections are being used on campus, to show what the library has within their own Connect collection, and how that connects to all of the topics that are really relevant today.
Thanks, Gloria. We have this graph called GraphDB. And what I have here is a very small subset of the vast amount of data that Gloria had already quantified for you in some of the screenshots of how the conversion from MARC to BibFrame creates a whole other set of connections and data points that weren't available under MARC. I'm going to start over here in my graph. I have anti-racism that I'm focusing on, and you can see subcategories of the topic of anti-racism. So you see it's labeled as a focus. So it's a sub-focus of that topic. I can move out to other topics. And again, every bubble graph that you're seeing here, these are all subsets. I only have the search results limited to 20 results. Now, of course, I could, increase the number of results in the set, and we'd have a very dense bubble cloud around any one of these centers in the hub. But you can see I can move across here from anti-racism. I have a subcategory here that I've pulled out, anti-racism of the United States. You can see that is one of, again, many concepts that are available, again, with a limited result set. So, ambient sounds is a particular concept within our catalog, or women medical scientists, and so on and so forth. We can start to see the connections now here between anti-racism in the United States, anti-racism, and in particular the yellow buttons, bubbles are actual items that are in our collection. So these are the titles of a book, or a video, or an ebook, or a DVD or a CD. And you can now begin to see what are some of the relationships between certain titles. I pulled out this one particular title here, Racism and Anti-Racism in American Popular Culture. And again, you could see a whole other set of sub-subjects underneath that are covered as topics and concepts within this one particular book. Now, this is a visualization of how this works. But what if I were to move over to the actual graph, the list that Gloria showed you, and do a search? So this is live, the actual screenshot that Gloria had showed you before, and you could see the list of all the different entities. I want to do a search. I'm going to do a search here for a particular topic. Let's try, I'm going to do gender studies. Gender studies, and we'll do the search. Under that is a topic, and you could see in the same way you saw on the graph that there are all these subcategories or subclassifications. I have the same thing here in the list. Let's see, I'm going to choose gender and technology studies, and this is a particular focus. And well, this happens to be a foreign language title. Let me see if I wanted to see more about this particular title. This gives me the details. It's tagged here with the icon that it's an electronic book. Let me see here, get some more details. And you can see here, this is again the conversion from MARC into BibFrame. I have the OCLC number. It's an online resources. And here's how I can go get it from De Gruyter. Let's see, that's with a particular topic. What if I were to do a search for a person? Let's see, how about we try an artificial intelligence researcher here at RPI, Hendler. Let's see, James A. Hendler. And we can see here, he's the author, he's the creator of, he's an author, he's a contributor to, so he's a co-author. I'm kind of interested in this particular book, Social Machines and Artificial Intelligence. And again, you can see how it's broken out. There's a summary that was provided by the publisher. Let's see, how do I actually get to the book? Let's see here. And here's the actual book. There's the press, and again, you can see how some of the material from Mark has been converted into BibFrame. The last thing I wanted to show is it's a video of this data visualization tool that we have called Campfire. And as I'm running the video, I'm going to kind of walk you through what you're actually looking at. So all those colored lines on sort of the floor of the circle, those are visual representations of links. So all that data that was listed before, you know, whether it's an item or it's an author relationship or it's a format type, a book or a video, all those color lines represent those linkages. Now, the white lines that we're seeing running vertically and horizontally, they represent either authors or books or item titles. And as we zoom in closer, we sort of clustered this on a variety of topics. And as we zoom in closer, you'll be able to spot the more detail about what these white lines are. They're going to change colors. Now, what this allows us to do in a way is to see, it's another visualization tool, but we begin to see sets of relationships and things like artificial intelligence. You wouldn't necessarily think of having any kind of link whatsoever to gender studies or anti-racism. You can see a little bit here in the video that the white lines have now become blue and green. The blue represent authors. You could see that red line right there, anti-racism. That's the topic that we're focused on in this particular cluster. And the green represent the titles of the actual items in the collection. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Gloria.
Thanks, Andrew. That's a great recommendation. I want to read the book Social Machines, and along the way, while I'm looking for it, I'll show you how it makes publishing your data makes this a way to have your library more visible on the web. So if you do a search for Social Machines, of course, you see all the options to buy, but if you go to this Read Now section, you'll see that you have Rensselaer Libraries as an option. So if I go to borrow, I see the different formats. And if I'd like to grab the ebook, for example, I can click and I'm brought directly into Rensselaer's catalog. And what's cool is that this can be exchanged with any discovery interface that the library wants to use. So as the library systems grow and change over time, you can make different endpoints visible to different services like Google, for example. That was just one example within the Google search environment, but I'll show you the same example in the Google Books. And that's how I got Rensselaer as an option where I'm at, based in Los Angeles. So if I search for the same book inside Google Books and click the Get the Book option, I can scroll down and again see the option to buy, but also borrow near you. So this is naturally using my location, but I've actually pinned a few libraries as my favorite, including Rensselaer Libraries, as well as the University of Melbourne Library. And so through that process, I ensure that they're always the top results anywhere I search Google. So when I travel for work next week, I'll still get this as my next option. And from here again, I can get the ebook or paperback or whichever format the library has the book in. And so through publishing linked data, the new connections that are created bring people directly into Rensselaer's in Rensselaer Library's catalog, starting when they search on campus or when they go find this library by editing their location and putting in their zip code. So Google's one way that libraries are making data visible, but you can also embed your lists in any website. So here, European Parliament Library is using BibFrame to bring people directly into Primo from their subject-based LibGuides. And then here we have an author, one of my favorite authors, Jessamine Ward. You can go and grab all of the things that are written by her or about her. And by copying and pasting the code onto any website, you can bring more people into the catalog. So here's a carousel of Jessamine's books embedded at East Baton Rouge Public Library, where they're highlighting the works of Black authors. Libraries can choose to share their lists through the collections tools to let them be used by other libraries. So this puts them in a place where you can find your library, compare your collection to the list, and then grab what you want and embed it on any website. All of the ways to make your data visible are tracked through your statistics dashboard. We don't track any personal information, but you will know how many times people are going into your catalog. So for example, from DC Public Library here, you can see the number of times people are coming from the open web, Google, and other applications within the same month. You can also use the overlap between your data and others to make new connections and bring in new sources of information. So here you can see a local library identifier from the University of Moncton and an equivalent identifier to Wikidata. This allows us to pull in additional information about different people and topics. Another way that we use this overlap is through ISBN matching. So Boston University a while back used ISBN matching to add digital copies of any match that they had between their collection and Open Library from the Internet Archive as part of their controlled digital lending initiatives. When we make connections to things like Wikidata, we can build knowledge panels. So what you're looking at here is a version of a knowledge panel that, just like those carousels, can be embedded on a website, and they're pulling in data from multiple sources. So here from Wikidata, we're getting an image and biographical information, and below we're getting all of these connections to things written by Albert and about him. And as these new connections are shared, people are able to find more of what the library has. And then that book, if you remember, by James, it can also be connected directly to RPI. So if I go to Wikidata and I search for James Hendler, you'll see that he's listed as an artificial intelligence researcher. You can get to his photo, but also his date of birth, to verify maybe that he's the same person in a different system that may describe him as well. You can get his history of his occupation. You can also figure out where he works. And you can see here that his employer is Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. And so through making these connections, the library can not only describe what they're connected to, but what everything that they're connected to has relationships with. So this helps create the vastly expansive graphs that you saw visualized in Andrew's demo. These connections can be made across many different identifiers. We're using automated processes, but we're also using match tools that allow people to ensure the consistency of matches that libraries are reusing across different graphs. We can pull in data from other graphs as well. So we've added recently 10,000 open ebooks to Rensselaer University's graph. So this is what RPI's graph looks like today. But even in just a few months, it'll look quite different as it continues to grow. So we've seen the shape of Rensselaer Library's collection change over the past few years as they're using BibFrame. But many libraries are starting to participate as these tools become more popular. So it'll be interesting to see what sources RPI chooses to add to their graph next. So just to summarize a few key takeaways of our conversation today, and give you some ideas of what we'd love to talk to you about during the Q&A session. By using linked data, you can unlock your catalog and increase the visibility of your library on the web and the usage of your collections. When you're using services like Bibliograph or standards like RDF, you're creating knowledge graphs, and those are at the core of many different technologies that we use today. All of the search technologies that we use when we search by text, voice, or image, the question and answering tools that are becoming more popular, that are driven by generative AI. We'll see more personal assistants and chatbots using this type of data. And of course, recommendation services as well. So by using BibFrame, it allows you to geographically and graphically visualize where your data is or where your library is located and all of the connections that it has to the people and topics that you describe. And through making relationships to different libraries and different data sets, and by sharing and curating your graph, you're making it more powerful over time. So thanks for joining us, and we're looking forward to our conversation.